From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBICD Primetime Capper, and it is time for the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles Live. And boy, oh boy, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you feel the same. And I got Mike Abadir coming up on our second segment, so I won't be too long here on our first segment. But pretty much, man, let's go ahead and jump into it right away. And as you can see, the NBA trade line is in place right now. So right now, from what I can see here, we have Kyle Lowry on the actually on the trade market as we speak, and it looks like that he might be on his way out of Toronto. And I'm thinking to myself, are the Clippers going to make themselves a 25th hour deal or something of that nature to bring back Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry together, just like they were in Toronto a few years back and everything like that when they went ahead and won a championship? Is this the vocal leader that the Clippers have been searching for? I think so. I think that Kyle Lowry would be a perfect fit for the Clippers, and this is me coming from the other side as well, too. You know, I do a segment daily, State of the Lakers. So when I look at this, I say to myself, the best point of action for the Clippers, if they really want to go ahead and win an NBA title this year, is to go ahead and just go get Kyle Lowry. Because Kyle Lowry is going to do everything you need him to do leadership-wise, and he'll be a clutch player for you as well, too. Much better than Pat Beverly. I'm telling you that right now. I know Pat Beverly plays very good defense, but at this point in time, though, you have to let that go. Because the thing is, you're trying to win a championship. You can't be having players that have liabilities like bad free throw shooting, bad three-point shooting. You got to have a guy like Kyle Lowry who's been to the All-Star game, who's been on Team USA, who's a guy that can be trusted by the head coach, Tyronn Lue, as well, too. And, you know, we all know Tyronn Lue kind of lets this team run themselves because he's a player's coach. So this is the perfect player for you to be the extension of the coach on the floor as well, too. So all I'm saying is that this could be a good trade for the Clippers if they're able to go ahead and make a move for Kyle Lowry in the next, 24 to 36 hours or so. All right, so it looks like Victor Oladipo once again is on the move. As you guys already know, Victor was traded earlier in the year from Indianapolis to Houston in a deal, in a straight up deal and everything like that. It was a weird type of deal in a sense, but all in all, though, they were able to get it going. And Victor Oladipo wound up in Houston after everything was all said and done. And if you guys know anything about Victor Oladipo, if he's traded in the next day or two, you know this is be his fifth team that he's played for in the last, 5 years almost. Because you have to understand, he started his career in Orlando, was traded to OKC, then he was moved to Indianapolis, and now he was moved to Houston. Now he's going to be moved to a fifth team. And, you know, Victor Oladipo has all-star talent. But the only thing is the guy can't stay healthy. That's the biggest problem with Vic Oladipo at this point, is that the guy can't stay healthy. So pretty much that's what they're looking at. And you know that he comes with a big price tag as well, too. There's a lot of rumors out there that he could possibly be on the Lakers. But I'm thinking to myself, the only way that can occur is if there's a buyout that happens. And then you guys have to understand that guys do have to go through the waiver wire and things of that nature as well, too. But from what I'm hearing, it seems like Oladipo is on the move, and it's going to be a big package deal in a sense as well, too. It looks like it's going to be a 3-team deal, and we're going to go ahead and see how it shakes out. But Victor Oladipo should be on the move, but I think that they're going to have to come with a really good deal for the Rockets, who do want to be collecting those first-round draft picks as well, too. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our player of the night last night, and the player of the night last night was none other than none other than last night, the player of the night is Nikola Jokic. Pretty much Nikola Jokic had himself a game last night. He looked really good. He had 28 points, 10 assists, 15 rebounds last night as well too. So pretty much, he was out there doing his thing, killing it. So pretty much, from what I can see here, it looks like that we had ourselves a really good one with that. So I just think to myself that a guy like Jokic has pretty much probably thrown himself back into the MVP race as well too for this year. So I'm thinking that when you got a guy like Jokic, he's going out here getting his 28 and 10. Damn it, which got well, I'm greened out, but 28, 15, 10, that's good numbers right there, in my opinion. I think that this guy can go ahead and find himself very, very into this MVP race as well, too, with LeBron and Embiid both being out for a significant amount of time. Jokic can really go ahead and kind of take his place in this in the MVP race. But I know what they'll do here. They'll throw Giannis or probably throw James Harden back into the mix for the MVP award as well, too. But I truly do think that you cannot overlook Jokic's effort. And, as I said before, Jokic and Embiid are showing the return of the big man and showing how dominant and how important the big man still is in the NBA and how versatile the big man can be. So, pretty much I think Jerry West was ahead of his time when he brought over Vlade Divac, because Vlade was one of the first centers you saw able to pass the ball, dribble the ball, shoot the ball, dunk the ball, defend, do everything. But he didn't get enough props for that because you know what? He's a first of. And when you're a pioneer, you don't always get all the props because everybody loves Jackie Robinson. But at the end of the day, Larry Doby was the better player. So, those are just little examples that I have that, pretty much you can have the prototype, but as it evolves, it's going to be a premier position. And man, right now, the versatile center to me is the most dangerous player on the planet if he's able to get his game on. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these guards are greedy. They want to really take it away from the big men nowadays, man, because they're trying to get their numbers as well, too. So it is what it is. The NBA evolution continues. All right, so let's get into the state of the Lakers. I know I was supposed to go state of the Lakers, then go into Jokic, but I want to go to state of the Lakers right now because pretty much state of the Lakers, people have to understand right now the Lakers are not in position to really move forward and be that team that won the championship last year, only for a few more weeks. I think that LeBron will be back by mid-April at least. The Lakers do need to start winning some games, though, because, boy, oh, boy, they started to drop daily in the standings as well, too. Now they're third in the Pacific Division, and they're fourth in the Western Conference as well, too. But when you have LeBron James and AD, and they're healthy in the playoffs, the Lakers can come in as an 8th seed and still pose the danger of moving forward and actually winning the NBA championship. But at this point right now, the Lakers might need to go ahead and get somebody to go ahead and throw a Band-Aid on this thing. And I mean, get a trade somewhere or get one of these good players on a buyout to get a little bit of a boost right now, because this is absolutely terrible. The Lakers, they could have beat the Hawks the other day, but they didn't do that. Then they played the Suns and they got close, and then they kind of just went awry. And then last night they had plenty of opportunities to stay in that game against the Pelicans, but they refused to. So I really do think the Lakers, after coming out the All-Star break, looked so good. And I'm wondering why they can't pick it up. I know LeBron is out, but still, they can still pick up the same effort that they were playing with when LeBron was there. So I know that they've talked about this. They'll make the adjustments, do whatever they have to do. But at this point right now, the Lakers are in a position where they don't want to be in. But it's good to be in this position right now than to be in this position when we're in the first round of the playoffs. Okay, so it's all right. The Lakers still will have a playoff spot. It will still be a high playoff spot as well, too, in my opinion, because the Western Conference isn't as a dominant conference as it used to be. You got teams that you would think can go ahead and, kill it every single night, but they'll wind up losing to Washington, or they'll wind up losing to Charlotte, or they can wind up losing to Sacramento. it's kind of a fickle once you get past the top four in the Western Conference. So that's where the Lakers do have a little bit of a bonus at, and they do have a little bit of time to go ahead and get this together. Just make sure that you don't drop 20 in a row like the Rockets did, okay? So it is what it is, and that is the state of the Lakers. And in more somber news, we lost Elgin Baylor the other day, and Elgin Baylor is one of the greatest Lakers of all time. If you put the top 5 Laker group out there, you cannot not have Elgin Baylor out there at the 3. You know what I mean? Because everybody is always having this big argument. Oh, you put Worthy here. No. You're going to put Elgin Baylor in that group of all-time Lakers. Jerry West will be in that group of all-time Lakers as well, too. In that starting 5, and Kareem will be in that starting 5 as well too. And I know a lot of people be like, "Well, where Shaq? Shaq got to come off the bench." And when it comes to all-time Lakers, because Shaq didn't stick around for 10 years of his career. Shaq gave us what? Shaq gave the Lakers a good 6-7 years. Okay, so Shaq's kind of in LeBron and Wilt Chamberlain. They're in their own little field of just gods that played for the Lakers, in my opinion, because they played for so many teams. But Elgin Baylor was a Laker for life, and Elgin Baylor was a Laker who was a Minneapolis Laker, and he was also a LA Laker. And he was on both sides of the coin. He came to a Laker team that had only won 19 games. When he got there, they wound up winning the Western Division Championship, even though they did get beat by Boston. In the process, they still went ahead and won that championship that year. And when he was on Army leave on the weekend, he would come into games and average 38, 19, and 8. That is absolutely nuts. And I know it's a different time, a different place, but this guy was the first flashy player in the NBA, a guy who could do absolutely anything he wanted on the court. And he became, once again, what I talked about earlier, the prototype for what was to come. The Michael Jordans of the world, the Kobe Bryants of the world, the David Thompsons of the world. All these great high-flying wingmen all came from the school of Elgin Baylor. So there it is, the man affectionately known as Rabbit by Bill Russell, RIP, gone at 86. Great man, great player, and man, he will be missed. And once again, we can always go ahead and salute Mr. Baylor, always outside of Staples Center where his statue does lie at. All right, so with that, you guys go ahead and check out our cool sponsor, www.HatClub. They got an awesome little Diamondbacks hat that I saw earlier today. And, we're going to talk about the Diamondbacks when I bring in Mike right now as well, too, our first day of talking about the NL West. So you guys, www.hatclub.com, you guys go ahead and check them out. Any $50 order, you guys will get to 10% off by pressing the link that's in the show description. Once again, that's hatclub.com. Get your 10% off on any $50 order or better. And we will be right back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles Live.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another, and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune into Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube. All right, we are back, and guess who is in the house? Well, guess who's on the way? Or guess who's going to be a part of the show right now, because he's in the house. He wouldn't, Mike would be right across from me right now, but he's here. let's go ahead and bring in the one and only Mike Abadir. What's going on, Mike? What's up with
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. I'm sorry. I saw you waiting over there. I said, Mike.
It was worth waiting. I wanted to hear your opening monologue.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear that first segment.
Yeah, man.
I'm not going to come in just right at the time I need to be there. I want to hear what this man's got to say. I really wanted to hear, actually, great Elgin Baylor tribute. Good update on the Lakers there and their situation. Overall, it was worth tuning in for. That was like Sports Center.
Right. Well, me, I really do follow the Lakers pretty extensively, but I'm one of those people that say to myself, when you're covering the Lakers and you're rooting for the Lakers, you shouldn't always have your heart on your sleeve with them, and you shouldn't always be over here daydreaming about who's going to come to LA next and all that good stuff. And I've been seeing on Twitter, a lot of people are like, "Oh, are we getting Brogdon? Are we getting so and so? Are we getting Oladipo? Are we getting Drummond?" That's far-fetched. Those are dreams right there. If they get bought out, quite possibly the Lakers have a little bit of money to go ahead and spend on them. But people have to understand the Lakers are in a cap. They have cap issues right now as well, too. The Lakers, and everybody should know that the Lakers are well over the cap threshold as well, too. They are paying extra money to make sure they have the LeBrons and ADs of the world as well, too. So people have to look at that fact as well, too. And who are you getting rid of if you do have buyout players as well, too? Are you going to get rid of a rotational player? Are you going to get rid of one of the developmental players that you have on the team? Maybe in Giannis's little brother or Babcock or something of that nature. But I know that THT is untouchable from what I'm hearing now. It used to be Caruso was untouchable. Now it's THT. So pretty much, I'm thinking to myself, the Lakers, man, they have to go ahead and just take it one game at a time. And fans have to take it one game at a time, too. This is, I think, fans' vacation until you get back your stars, honestly, because you're just going to be disappointing yourself nightly if you're watching the Lakers. But quite possibly, they could get a big upset against the 76ers because they are without Embiid as well, too. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that the Lakers, as long as those – see – knick-knack lingering injuries can be really problematic if they don't heal right. I mean, like the ankle, for example, for LeBron, right? One bad step and you're out for the rest of, when he comes back in the playoffs. If he were to take one bad step, he's out for the rest of the playoffs, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is if these guys come back when they're truly healed, they're going to be fine, man.
Well, I'm thinking
right?
that
that's the thing. They don't need to bring anybody in
right.
as long as they get healthy.
That's
right?
my thing.
If they don't get healthy, see, like I said, the concern is you bring somebody back too early and you re-aggravate the same injury. That's a big problem in basketball, especially, right? So right. I mean, that's the thing. I don't think that I would mortgage the future because you don't have to. Just wait until those guys comes in. Forget about playoff seeding and positioning or whatever. I mean, do you think it really matters for the Lakers to get one more home playoff game? I think they can win regardless with those veterans. You know what I mean?
Totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. And see, people have to understand the playoffs are going to be just like the playoffs last year in the NBA. You'll probably be caught by surprise because there's a lot of teams playing really good basketball right now in the NBA. But when we get to the playoffs, they might be dead tired. That's why I say Utah is a team that looks like they're starting to kind of gas out a little bit because they played so well for so long. And you can't keep that type of consistency up without saying that you're going to lose a couple players to, like you said, knick-knack injuries, things of that nature. And I just feel like Utah is going to be is going to wind up having something that's going to be really drastic for them moving forward when we get to the meaty part of the season. See, we are both horsemen, so we know we don't want to be around no front runners unless he got a rocket up his butt. But if you're a front runner You can't get so excited about these teams. That's why it's hard for me to get excited about the Gonzagas and Baylors of the world, but we're going to get into that in a moment when we talk about who's going to win it all. So pretty much, these front-running teams, you can get sidetracked by them, and you can get into this idea that they're going to take care of you every night. And it just doesn't work like that in this business at all.
Yeah, that's a very good point, man. That's a very good point. So, but back to the original kind of theme or question regarding, do they make a trade? Do they not make a trade? I think, if anything, maybe it's something for a little bit of depth, but I don't think it's anything that straps them cap-wise any further. I think that would be ridiculous if they did.
Right, I'm here. Drummond could possibly be on the way if he's bought out. If he's not tomorrow, he could possibly be on the way this weekend. So that's something to look at in the position that Laker fans have been really hard on all season, is the center position. And people have to understand, in today's NBA, the center, if you're not a Embiid or a Jokic, if you're not doing the versatile things, all they really need you to do is play defense and rebound and get the easy buckets when you pass the ball. That's exactly how they doing the That's exactly how they are doing the center position and the post.
It's like
position.
the catcher in baseball.
Right.
Because,
right. Because if you're not versatile, then they're going to use you for what your strength is. And that's pretty much rebounding, getting in the way to help the spacing, things of that nature, because a lot of people, and the Lakers seem to be much better when they have somebody like Trez on the floor running center. You know what I mean? And Trez has been an absolute monster in the block as well too this year. So that's something that's going to be very big in the playoffs, in my opinion.
Yeah. But speaking of the center position, by the way, if I may, I miss the center position in the way that I remember it, man. Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, later on, Tim Duncan, he could be a center for whatever, Shaquille O'Neal, those centers, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a slew of them. Those centers, though, in the 80s and early 90s, early to mid-90s, Alonzo Mourning, I mean, all those, I loved that position. That used to be one of my favorite positions on the court. Right, different position now, though, man.
Right, because if you were a prize center, there was no doubt you were going number one in the draft. There was no doubt at all. You know what I mean? Like if you couldn't find a 7-footer to pick first, then you would settle for maybe the guard position, but it will always be somebody who was over 6'6", 6'7". It was never the shorties. And then when Allen Iverson came around, the whole idea of how you draft players changed, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And Allen Iverson was a shorty. You know what I mean? Allen Iverson lied to all of us, said he was 6'1". The guy was 5'11", so pretty much with a great. So, he was one of the first shorties to get drafted. So that was a big, big deal at that time. So pretty much from that point on, they drafted centers after that, but they didn't do well. Like Michael Olakandi was the next year up. It was Michael Olakandi. And a lot of people were scratching heads in Philadelphia like, why don't you take Marcus Camby? Marcus Camby was seen as the best player, best big man in the nation at the time and things of that nature. But Philadelphia knew who was going to be able to help them sell tickets. And Iverson was the most exciting player in all of college basketball. And they hit that right on top of the head. But they had a GM with the entertainer's mentality. You know what I mean? So that's why that worked out. But if that guy's not there, Allen Iverson could have wound up in Vancouver.
Yeah, man. You kind of got me thinking during.
That would have been bad.
Yeah, I mean, you got me thinking and like of that time period in those drafts, Michael Olakandi, and there was a Sean Bradley, there was Todd Fuller by the Warriors who took him instead of Vince Carter, Vince Carter or Kobe, right? They took Todd Fuller instead. Sean Bradley, who passed away the other day, by the way, God rest his soul. Was it Sean Bradley that passed away? I think it was. Hope I didn't misspeak.
It's confirmed that he's paralyzed.
Oh, paralyzed. Okay. Apologies to Sean Bradley and to any Sean Bradley fans and his family and stuff. Very sad that he's paralyzed in that accident. But yeah, there's that time period where there was a lot of centers that didn't really pan out. And I think you're right. That coincides with that transitionary period to a different type of basketball player in the NBA. You make a lot of sense.
The last center I think that was drafted first overall that did really well in the league, but it was half of a career almost, was Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard was exceptional in that as well too. So pretty much there with that, let's go ahead and jump into baseball real quick, man, and talk about the Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks, they are pretty much coming back from a last place showing last year. I thought they were going to be much better than that. I actually thought they were going to be the team that was going to be the Dodgers nuisance, but they actually wound up not being any of that last season. They just kind of fell apart after a while. They were a better team back east, but they were a terrible team at home for some odd reason. I'm not back east, but they're a good road team, but not a great home team last season. I think that's a lot of – there's some factors that go along with this Diamondbacks team that says that they're still in a rebuild mode, but they shouldn't be that bad this season, in my opinion. But I still don't have them doing very much. I don't have them making the playoffs. I don't have them surprising anybody or anything of that nature. And they have somebody on the team now that I consider the top player, because I really don't recognize the names that are on this roster anymore as well, too. There's a lot of guys that they have coming up from the farm now playing for them, and a lot of guys who are just, cheap, as I like to say, in the MLB. So pretty much from what I'm seeing here, we got Ketel Marte as the top player here. And Ketel is 20 home runs, 75 RBIs, 84 runs. What sticks out to me is the 286 batting average. He could possibly a 300 hitter this year as well too. So what are your thoughts real quick on Ketel Marte?
Yeah, Ketel Marte, I mean, he's got the versatility, can help in the infield, can play a good outfield. He's probably the hitter on their team with the most upside from a well-rounded hitting perspective. Their home run leader this year is going to be Cole Calhoun, the former LA Angel slugger. Cole Calhoun, he can hit you some home runs. But Ketel Marte, he's probably the guy, like you said, because he hits for average and he can hit for some power. He's a line drive type of hitter. He can swipe you a bag or two. He's probably their best offensive playmaker, and probably the only, let's just say, put it this way, he's the only hitter on the team, Pop, that could possibly end up being in the All-Star game, right? He's the only All-Star hitter that they've got, in my opinion, unless Cole Calhoun goes into some type of record-breaking home run tear or something, has a first half batting average of 225, but has like 38 home runs in the first half or something, because that's right. The type of hitter he is. He doesn't hit for average. Cole Calhoun is purely just there for his home runs and driving in players with a 2-run shot, 3-run shot, that type of thing. But yeah, Ketel Marte, he doesn't have necessarily a ton of longevity in terms of proving it year after year after year. But Marte, the last couple of years, he's proven to be, if not elite, pretty close to it, Pop.
All right. Well, this is something you got to have bright spots on your team, something to look forward to when you guys are playing on a daily basis, somebody that you can key in on that, that can be there and be that guy. And we do have that guy on the team, former MVP of the World Series, Cy Young Award winner, Madison Bumgarner. Madison Bumgarner is somebody that could actually be good for this team. You know what I mean? If it was movie sets, and you're the manager, you would want this guy to be kind of like your assistant manager in a sense, giving guys pep talks and things of that nature, let them know that it's going to be all right. You know what I mean? And pretty much been there, done that. And you know what? These are the type of guys you want to have on your team and, late close games so they can maybe throw out tricky situations. Madison Bumgarner knows this division from head to toe. And I think that pretty much this is one of the best bets for them to have, and it's one of the best assets for them to have as well too. Madison Bumgarner still has a name in this league, and so pretty much I think what they're doing with him is they can go ahead and dangle him when it's time to make a key trade during the season if they're struggling, and pretty much go ahead and get some assets through Madison Bumgarner, who I expect to have a much better season than he did last year. He's coming off of a pretty he's coming off of an injury and everything like that, and he wasn't on the Giants anymore. You don't have that same dugout anymore. You got a lot of young guys with you, so you had to get to know the squad a little bit. So this year, I think that Madison comes back and he can be a big leader for this team, but also be a key asset to the team as well too. If they're struggling coming in August and needing to go ahead and say, okay, look, let's rebuild. Let's see if we can find ourselves some pretty good, ready to go prospects, and then make a nice trade to a team that's going to be in. Now, I would say a team like that could be, if they're playing the way that everybody expects them to play, the Mets could make a phone call to come get Madison Bumgarner. He would be a great asset for them to have in that dugout if they are a winning team this year. So I would say that if you're an NL East team, Bumgarner, if you're the top NL East team, I would say go after Bumgarner. And I know that he's old, Mike, but still, he's a vet. And he knows what he's doing out there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you're talking about somebody like Mad Bum and his role on this team at this stage in his career, after this many years in the league and World Series championship rings and accolades like you are mentioning, the thing is this: when you're Arizona Diamondbacks, you don't need him to be your number one. He's not your ace anymore, or he's not an ace anymore, and you're not bringing him in to be your ace. Actually, Zach Gallen, who is the prized prospect they got for the other Marte when they traded him last summer to the Marlins, the haul that they got back included Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen is an ace. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with a hairline fracture pop just a few hours ago. So it doesn't look like it's going to be super serious, but his opening day start is in jeopardy for their number one, for their ace, Zach Gallen. Mad Bum, though, he's going to be their number 3 starter, most likely. And that's such a luxury that when you have your number 3 starter, that he could be viewed as a team leader and somebody who could be a stopper, right? By stopper, I mean, you know how it goes. Long baseball season, you always have winning streaks, you always have losing streaks. Who gets you out of the losing streak? Who is the one that makes the losing streak stop at 3 instead of getting to 8? That usually is going to be the difference between being a wild card team or not, right? Most of the time, you go back and look at their 162 game schedule, Pop, you'll find that the wild card team was able to overcome and prevented having that really long losing streak. Whereas the team that's a game or two short of the playoffs, they couldn't manage it. And so you need somebody like a Mad Bum to come in and stop those losing streaks. So those are the positives. Their number 2 pitcher, Merrill Kelly, he's okay. Same with the 4 and the 5, Caleb Smith. Actually, I mean, I don't like to ever criticize ball players, but Luke Weaver has not been good, but he's got ability, right? So, I mean, their pitching staff, I give it maybe a C+. I mean, if I'm being really generous, maybe a B-. You know, that's if Zach Gallen is healthy and can start an opening day and give you 32, 33.
Right.
You know, but with that lineup,
to me, that's decent.
Yeah, I mean, so their starting rotation is decent. Soria, their closer, he's been around the game for a long time. You know, so he's got a lot of experience. And then they've got this guy, Stefan Crichton, who could really, really bring it. He's kind of their setup guy or their next closer in line, so to speak. But when you look at that lineup, Pop, top to bottom, it doesn't really scare anybody, man. I mean, beyond Cole Calhoun and Ketel Marte, who we already talked about, I mean, when you run down this lineup, you know, Christian Walker, who's got some pop, but he never really puts it together for a whole season. Josh Rojas, who's been a prospect for 2 or 3 years running now. Eduardo Escobar, who had a nice season a couple of years ago, but wasn't able to replicate it. We'll see. Nick Ahmed, who every year I'm like, okay, he's going to regress, and he doesn't. So he always impresses me because he somehow is able to put together, string along good season after good season. And then David Peralta, and he's kind of is in that same Christian Walker category to me, whereas he's got ability, but he never puts it together for a full season, consecutive seasons. You don't know what you're getting, but if you were going to get career years out of all these guys, Pop, they're still a middle of the pack offense. That's if they all have career years.
I agree. I agree.
Sorry, Diamondback fans. I mean, that's just the way it is.
It is what it is, baby.
It is what it is.
So pretty much, let's go ahead and talk about the Buccaneers. But before we move on to that, I got the Diamondbacks going under this year, under 76.5 wins this year. I think they're a 75 win team or less this year, to be honest with you. I think that if they get to 70,
I owe you. Yeah, double that bet, whatever you're going to bet it, double that amount, and I owe you whatever amount it is. So if you're putting 50, make it 100, and I give you $50. I'm with you on that.
All right, sounds good, because I think they go under, and I think that's just a very strong play, because at the end of the day, they're going to have to deal with the Dodgers up at top, and then they're going to have to deal with the Padres. And this could be Padres and Dodgers batting practice when they get to these guys, because I don't trust the bullpen. The starting pitch is decent, but the bullpen looks like it's going to be the issue for them this year. So pretty much there it is about the Diamondbacks, under 76.5, 2021 prediction on the boys from the desert. Now, let's go ahead and talk some NFL real quick. Sue was re-signed by the Bucs, and I think the Raiders totally missed out on this one because they needed somebody to shore up that middle part of the defense. I know that they probably will be looking for the linebacker in the draft, but I would have thought that, the way the Raiders chase great veterans in the NFL, especially when they're kind of at the peak or at the end point of their career like Stu, they will go after a guy like Stu who can take up 2 defenders and actually make your defense a little bit more respectable going into next. And what are your thoughts missing on him? And do you think the Bucs played this one smartly as well too?
Yeah, I mean, look, they got him on a 2-year, $31.8 million contract extension. Excuse me. Actually, I am mistaken on those numbers. It's a 1 year, $10 million. Excuse me. Apologize about that. And Ndamukong Suh, I agree with your comment about the Raiders missing an opportunity because he brings that nasty to your team. You remember for a long time, he was really considered like a dirty player, right? When he was with the Lions, he was considered a dirty player. He got a lot of 15-yard penalties, got thrown out of a lot of games. It was always one of those things where in the locker room during interviews, he's like, no, that wasn't intentional. When everybody's looking at whatever he did, maybe step on somebody's head or hit somebody, but it looked like there was a lot of intent. But he brings that nasty element. He's really a football player in the 1970s sense of the word. Kind of fits those legendary Raider, grind it, Oakland, blue collar type of guys, right? And the Bucs recognize that, so good for them for bringing him back. He posted 6 sacks during the regular season. Really turned it on in the postseason. He had a sack and a half during the postseason, and just did a bang up job. And is a big reason why their defense really stepped it up in the playoffs. You remember, Pop, during the regular season? You remember when the Bucs were getting lit up by the Saints?
Well, I'm sorry.
And other teams, the teams are posting. I think the Packers lit them up for 38 or something. The Saints lit them up for 30-something points. The Bucs got it together in the postseason, in part because they were strong in the middle defensively.
Right. Right.
Good signing is my bottom line. Good re-signing.
Right. And I think that it was absolutely, I thought that they were probably going to let him move on because they were getting everybody back. And I don't know how much they can afford, but they were able to work out a deal because, see, the thing is, I know how they got him back, especially how they got him back. Tom Brady got on the phone about this one. You know what I mean? Tom Brady, hey, man, come on back. You know, we need you. Come on, man, take the $10 million and it'll be okay. You've been in the NFL 10 years already. You made money. You know what I mean? Because, you know, he had a monster deal when he went to Miami. That Miami deal was historic. You know, no defensive line. He set the bar for how defensive linemen are paid now. You know what I mean? So pretty much, you know, Sue, you know, going back to the Bucs, this is huge because this puts them in position to be right back where they were at last season. Not back to winning a Super Bowl yet, but the thing is, they'll be right back at the top of the NFC South, and they'll be right back at the top of the NFC next year.
Yeah, look, nowadays, a 1-year commitment is nothing.
Right.
And $10 million for, you know, a premier player, you know, somebody who's top 5, top 7 in his position. That's on the cheap, man.
Right. And if
take that all day.
And if he gets outworked, and see, they made a deal to where if he gets outworked in camp by some guy that's a little bit younger, a little bit cheaper, then they don't really lose out on anything. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, they didn't say how much was guaranteed. You know what I mean? But when you're on a 1-year deal, that means that you don't have too much security as well, too. Because if they want to move on, they can just go ahead and move on. You know what I mean?
No, and look, he's made plenty of money in his career.
Yeah,
he's 34 years old. You know, I don't know how long he wants to play. I have no idea. You know, my guess is at his position, you know, if he stays healthy, he could probably play until it's about 37, 38. So he's probably got 3-4 years left in the tank. And I think for him, after you've been in Detroit and a losing Miami team, I think it's probably one of those things where it felt so good to get a ring. I'll take less and I'll stay here all day because I've already made all the money I need.
Right. And he would have did the same thing in LA if they would have won the Super Bowl that year. But that didn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. And I failed to mention the Rams. But that is a good point because that's another factor in his favor, right? He's taken 2 defenses to a Super Bowl.
Right. Exactly. So pretty much let's move on to Rondale Moore. What a player, man. This guy is killing it right now. 5'7", 180, 4.29, and he jumped a 4.25 vertical the other day, bro. 42.5 vertical. That's NBA good. That's slam dunk contest good right there. And he's pretty much going to make up for that 5'7" height with that vertical jump. He's going to be an exceptional player in the NFL. And Steve Smith comes to mind. And people have to understand Steve Smith was an absolute terror when it came to the wide receiver position in his prime. And we both know this, that Steve Smith was one of the most unguardable of them all. And if Rondale Moore can go ahead and channel the same things that Steve was able to channel in the NFL, I expect a very, very productive career coming from Rondale Moore. But it all depends on where he's headed to. I wouldn't want to see him land in Detroit. I wouldn't want to see him land in a place like, say, Jacksonville. I wouldn't want to see him land anywhere where the teams are trying to kind of build. This guy, Rondale Moore, is the type of guy where if you're a playoff team trying to get to the next level, you might want to jump up a little bit and come get this guy to be your secret weapon, in my opinion. So what are your thoughts on Rondale real quick?
I'm not as bullish as you are on Rondale Moore. There's a couple reasons for that. The first one is all the NFL scouts, and I talked to one actually, via text message. They all thought he was 5'9" going into this event. He told me that a lot of scouts soured on him after seeing that he's 5'7", right? You know, 5'7", there's only one player in the league, and that's Jakeem Grant with the Miami Dolphins. That's 5'7". There hasn't been anybody that's been 5'7" taken in the first 100 picks in a long, long time. So that's the first thing. I mean, a lot of people talking like, oh, now he solidified his place as a first rounder because of that 40 time. No, not necessarily. I represented a guy who posted a 4.28, Nick Miller, and he ended up playing for the Raiders and the Eagles and the St. Louis Rams. But that 40 time that Nick posted just made more teams want him, but it didn't move him up the draft board necessarily because he also was a small guy. So I think the 5'7" is an issue. Here's the other thing, though, Pop. Look at his production at Purdue. His best season was his freshman season 3 years ago. You look at his yards. In 2018, he had a fantastic breakout season, 1,258 yards. Every year since then has gone down. His yardage total has gone down each and every year that he played. His touchdown totals gone down each and every year he's played. His rushing, because he's, one of those kind of secret weapon type players. His best season also, freshman year. He had the most yards freshman year, the highest yards per carry the freshman year, the most touchdowns on the rushing side his freshman year. So I always look at production from we're bringing in football players. We're not bringing in track guys. We're not bringing in, guys who need to be able to dunk necessarily. We're looking for football players who can produce. Why has his production gone down each and every year? That's a big one. And the 5'7" is a big one. He's been injury prone. That's a big one. I predict he becomes a nice steal of a pick in the 4th or 5th round. Mark my words, he is not going to be a first rounder, maybe not even a second rounder. I think he's a middle round guy, and he's going to be looked at as a steal. And if he's in a good fit, then I think he could be a really nice weapon in the National Football League.
Hey, I totally agree. And you got more information than I do at this point. So I have to agree with you on that one, that quite possibly he can go from the 1st to the 4th, but most likely he'll be a middle pick instead of being a top end pick. This is just, and he's little. So pretty much little guys can always go ahead and freak out a little bit. And that's what pretty much is happening right now. So, it just puts him in a position to be on a much better team than, say, a team that's trying to develop and things of that nature. So pretty much let's go ahead and switch up gears a little bit and go into this March Madness real fast. Who was the most impressive team in the tourney, and who do you think takes it all at this point?
Ooh, those are really tough questions. The toughest question to me is who's been most impressive, because is that from a perspective of you're supposed to win and have done so, with the pressure and everything, like, you're winning like you're supposed to, like a Baylor or a Gonzaga, or is this you're making a great run and you weren't supposed to, right? Like maybe like a Oregon or a USC or UCLA. Let's just call it the Pac-12 conference. So I guess if there's a conference that's been really impressive because they weren't projected to do much, it's the Pac-12. Definitely, that is the conference to me that gets my salute. But yeah, I mean, if you had to pick one team, I don't know, maybe it's USC. That might be the team that I'm looking at as, wow, they're a 6th seed, and they beat Kansas. Not just that they beat Kansas, Pop, but they gave them their worst drubbing in gazillion years. Try to look up when's the last time Kansas lost in March, in the tourney, I should say, by 34 points. You're not going to find it. I think it's the worst all-time drubbing. So I'm going to go with USC.
That was bad. And I had Kansas too. That was bad. Like terrible, because you saw the start of the game and it was like Kansas has no shot tonight. And the team I think was the most impressive, believe it or not, was Arkansas. I liked the way that Arkansas played. And they played that first game with a lot of moxie. The second game they played with a lot of moxie as well too. And you know what? They never settled. So I like that. I thought they did pretty well. Who do you have winning it all?
Well, speaking of Arkansas, it kind of sets up really well for them, right?
Yeah, in a sense, but they still have to deal with Baylor because Baylor's in that bracket as well too.
But I mean, they should get past. Am I seeing this next matchup correctly here? Oral Roberts.
Yeah, all right. So Oral Roberts shouldn't be that much, but those guys are good. Atmos and O'Banner need to be considered for the NBA. Like seriously, they look better. They're playing better basketball than all their little prospects that they're so in love with in the NBA for the NBA. Seriously, those two guys right there. They playing like top 10 picks right now. They playing like
sure. I think that they're deserving of that. If we're going to assume, which you can't do anything like that in March Madness in this tourney, but if you're going to assume that it's going to end up being Baylor and Arkansas in that region, that is a great heavyweight fight, Pop. That's going to be a great matchup. I don't know who I'd even favor. I know Baylor's got that number 1 next to them, but Arkansas is a 3, so they're a really good team. They're playing like it. They're steamrolling teams, and I would say this. If the winner of that game is going to be really battle-tested, but I just got this sneaky feeling, Pop, that the winner's coming out of the West. So I'm going to say that Gonzaga ends up playing. And by the way, that's not going out on a limb, right? Because Gonzaga plays Creighton and SC plays Oregon. So we're going to have a West team regardless, in that side of the bracket. I'm going to say Gonzaga and Baylor.
Hey, you know what? And I have to agree with you. They're on a crash course collision to play each other right now. And pretty much the way the season has been shortened in a sense, it just seems like inevitable. It seems like all the top teams were able to play each other in the final series of all these sports in the last 18 months or so. So pretty much I am in total agreement that Gonzaga they got the look of a champion right now because they're absolutely crushing teams. Mark Few has been here, done that, and he has the players. He has those transcending players, those great players that you can talk about years down the road. Jalen Suggs was an absolute gift. He was the best player in the nation, and they got him. And pretty much now Gonzaga has put themselves in the group of landing 5-star players, and that's why they're going to be able to have their best and biggest shot at a national championship this year. And so that's where I'm going to end that at. So any final words for us, Mike, before we go to before we let you go?
You summed it well, especially with Mark Few and the Gonzaga program. A big salute to them, man. I mean, think of what they've done. They've gone from a school that nobody had heard of and nobody even knew where it was. They couldn't point out where Gonzaga even is in the map, to being a team. I mean, they've done the equivalent of what, like a Fresno State in football being a national championship contender each and every year.
Right.
Or Colorado State or Nevada Reno. I mean, that's really, really something that's almost defies logic when you're talking about going up and banging against the Power 5 conferences. So on that note, go Zags, man. I'm pretty impressed with what they're doing, and they got all my respect.
Man, Mike, it's always a pleasure. Hopefully we get you back next Wednesday to talk some more. And we'll be at Final Four time with this, and then we'll talk a little bit more baseball because we'll be right at opening day. So pretty much, man, it's always a pleasure to have you here with us, Mike. Man, and have
Thank you.
Beautiful day, man. And
I look forward to us talking tomorrow on the Mike Abadir show. So all fans of Pop, he'll be on my show tomorrow. That will be at 4 p.m. Pacific time, the Mike Abadir show. Google it or you'll see Pop's tweet in the next 24 hours. Thank you, Pop.
Yes, sir. All right. So Paramount Plus, you guys go ahead and make sure you get into Paramount Plus. Mike, you better get that Paramount Plus, boy. I'm telling you. So you guys using promo code VSX, and we will go ahead and pretty much be right back with the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
The Viget app, where social
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right. We're going to run through this real quick. I just want to get you guys the odds and everything like that before we get to talking tickets. But NBA Wednesday preview. And in the NBA Wednesday preview, our first game up, the Celtics at the Bucs. The Celtics come in here as a 5-point dog, over under 230.5. So the Celtics looking to try to bounce back tonight, and the Bucs looking to keep continuing to win. So let's go ahead and move on to our next game. And in our next game, this one is going to be a really good one. This is going to be Denver at the Raptors. And as you guys can tell, this could be the final night that the champions, that some of the vital members of the championship Raptors are still together. They're coming in here as a +2 dog at home, and it's a over under 221.5. It looks like it could be a toss up of a game. Let's see how it shakes out. All right, we move forward to our next one, and our game is going to be the Clippers at the Spurs. The Clippers have had issues with the Spurs all season, and that's why we're going to be taking the Spurs as our dog of the day. They come in as a +5.5, and they are over under of 220.5. All right, let's get to our next game. Our next game is going to be another doozy. It's going to be the Hawks at the Kings, and the Hawks coming in here as a 3-point favorite. They've been balling out, and this is actually an easier game for them than the last few that they played, over under 236.5 here as well too. So let's see how it shakes out, and we move forward from there. And in our final game, we have a really good matchup here with Brooklyn and the Jazz. It looks like Harden's going to be out tonight, and Griffin's going to be out tonight, and you already know KD's out, and you know Kyrie somewhere saying he's going through some things. So it looks like the big four for the Nets are going to be out tonight. So the Jazz are seen as a heavy favorite, but that means absolutely nothing with the team that's focused on winning games nightly. So this is a dangerous spot if you think that the Utah Jazz are going to be able to dominate the Nets after a great upset that they had last night against the Blazers. All right, let's go ahead and check out talking tickets real quick. And with talking tickets, you guys go ahead under 230 with the Celtics and the Bucs. The Nuggets money line -135. As I said before, the Spurs +190. The over under of 235.5. The Hawks and Kings +10 on the net. Single what you like, 34-1 ticket here. All right, so with that, you guys go ahead and check out UWager, where the world bets at, and you guys can go ahead and put in the promo code VSXPOP. You guys will receive up to 50% on a match deposit. So if you put up 200, they'll match you with 100, and then you just go from there. All right, so with that, this is going to be the Premier Sports Betting Show with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and this is the Primetime Angles Live, and I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.